Hi, today is September 16th, 2023, and here are my poems for the day. The first one is poem number 1493 for the year, Botero. I'm generally not one of those people who, when a well-known artist dies, says I was never a fan, but I'll make an exception for Botero, who died yesterday, because I was never a fan, but after reading his obituary, I've come around. I didn't know about his Abu Ghraib paintings, and I looked them up, and I thought they were extraordinary, and I'm really glad he made them, although glad maybe isn't the appropriate word. But I'm glad to be reminded of that very dark time in our history when we abandoned our alleged principles and tortured people. One of the things art can do is help you see yourself, or make you see yourself, or in this case, since I hadn't seen them before, remind you of who you were or who you are. So thank you, Botero, for reminding me. Poem number 1494, Power. One of the campaign promises the last president made as a candidate in 2016 was that he would double Guantanamo, and he fucking won. He promised to double down on the previous Republican president's war crimes. Of course, the previous Democratic president had doubled down on the drones. Power corrupts and misleads and takes you places you might have sworn you'd never go, or for some, it takes them exactly where they want to go. Sometimes I am relieved that I am powerless over so many things, and sometimes I am in denial about how much power I actually have, and sometimes I am in denial about my complicity with what my country does. Poem number 1495, Shift. Looking at those paintings yesterday fucked with my shit more than a little bit, but now I have to shift. I have an idea for a happy one that I started writing yesterday on the subway, and an idea for a silly one that I told a friend about last night called The Audient, but I thought I needed a palette cleanser to signal the shift. But I think I've already done this before. I think I've already written a poem called Palette Cleanser. But I am wrong. I looked it up. I have never written a poem called Palette Cleanser. And I did write a poem called The Audient just last year, so fuck my life and let me move along. Poem number 1496, Soundtrack. First, as I was walking out the door yesterday, I had Alexa play Don't Take No for an Answer by Tom Robinson Band. Then, as I walked to the subway, I would have sang Robinson's Martin, but I didn't think of it, so I defaulted to his biggest hit, Glad to Be Gay, even though I'm like 97% not gay. Then, as I waited for the subway, I heard the ba-dum, 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 ba-dum of the express on the opposite track, and thought of what Howard Devoto and later Peter Shelley both sang after the third chorus of Boredom, just before that brilliant two-note guitar solo. And on the way back from wherever it was I went to, I was like, I hope I have Imperial Bedroom on my phone, and I did, and I listened to the entire album. The last few violin strains faded out just as I got out at 79th Street, and then I spoke with Mary, which is an odd coincidence that I will tell you about in a moment. Poem number 1497, Audient. This morning I searched my poems and found that last year's poem number 238 was called The Audient. And what's weird is it's a story about someone named Mary, and I spoke to my friend Mary late last night because she happened to have reached out. Last year's poem number 238 had nothing to do with my first experience with the word audient. Audient was a word that popped into my head before I was sure it was even a word, because one time when King Missile III toured Europe, we played some city and only like 2 or 3 or 4 people showed up. I said, well, we have an audient, which I thought might be the singular form of audience, and it is. But I didn't know that at the time, but I confirmed it later. Now, if you Google audient, a company comes up called Audient. They were established in 1997, a few years before we did that European tour. This poem is not as silly as I thought it was going to be. I will try again another time. Fuck me, 2 to go. What will I do now? Poem number 1498, The Doors of Perception. I have never done mescaline, but I did read The Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley, and it made me want to try hallucinogenics, which I'm very glad I did, and which I'm very glad I stopped doing. I don't want to try hallucinogenics again or mescaline for the first time, but I think I would like to read The Doors of Perception again. Huxley took the title from a line in a William Blake book called The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. I should love Blake. Ginsberg loved Blake, and I love Ginsberg, but I am almost completely ignorant of Blake. But I do know that in The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, Blake said, if the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite, for man has closed himself up till he sees all things through narrow chinks of his cavern. And yes, I know that the doors name themselves after Huxley's book. Huxley's idea was that drugs can help you glimpse the infinite, and that's true. But Blake never did mescaline, and Blake glimpsed the infinite too. And the last poem of the day, poem number 1499, A Glimpse. A glimpse can lead to an overwhelming vision, to a deep and eternal experience, to all and everything and more. A glimpse can be a comfort and give one the sense that one is not alone. A glimpse can be a gateway to joy or a gateway drug to ruin. A glimpse can be an open gate, but sometimes it's wise to take a longer look before walking through. All right, that's it. Thank you. I appreciate you. Not sure about the poems today. Well, I'm sure. I'm not happy with the poems today. The last one, I kind of like. Anyway, I appreciate you.